So I just have one question for you guys. Are you a masochist? No? Well, after this video, you're going to be. It's morphin time. So here's today's deck list. Now just a reminder before I go through the deck list, if you enjoy this kind of content, want to see more content just like this, or just find this kind of content useful in any way, make sure to let me know with a like on today's video and considering subscribing to the channel down below. I make new deck lists every single month whenever new cards are added to the game, so if you want to see more decks from me in the future, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Also, if enough people do so, I may make a B-Trooper video tomorrow. It just depends on how expensive that deck is, as I actually haven't checked yet. Alright, let's go through the deck list. So today's deck list is of course going to be Dinomorphia, which is the brand new art type they just added into the game. Now as per usual, every single card in this deck list is going to be typed out in the description down below, so if you missed a card in the video and wondering what it was, just take the description, it's going to be written out down there. So the entire premise of this deck is based around a bunch of dinosaurs, a bunch of fusions, a bunch of trap cards, and the entire purpose of the deck is to reduce your life points as low as possible. Not your opponent's, yours. The entire premise of this deck is you want your life points as low as possible because of your big boss monster, Dinomorphia Kentragina? I can't really pronounce that. This card, it loses attack equal to your life points, so by paying half your life points using your fusion spell or your fusion trap, your brute, activating your solemns, getting your life points as low as possible, you'll have a really big attack Dinomorphia Kentragina. It really does add up. I think on average this card's attack will be like 3,800 plus in most duels. It really does add up over time. So the main strategy for this deck is honestly pretty simple. You just want to get a hold of your Dinomorphia Theresia. This card, when it's normal or special summon, can set one of your Dinomorphia trap cards straight from your deck, straight to your spell and trap card zone, and that's normally going to be Domain. You can also set any of your other ones such as Brute or your Sonic, one of which is a spell and trap card negate, the other is a pop one of your monsters to destroy one of your opponent's monsters, but generally you're going to want to be setting Domain. Domain is your fusion spell for the deck. It allows you to pay half your life points to fusion summon one Dinomorphia fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand, deck, or field as material. So activate this card, send one copy of your Theresia and one copy of Diplosis straight from deck to the graveyard, and you can fusion summon your big boss monster, Kentragina. I can't pronounce that. This card, like I said, it loses attack equal to your life points, but it also has the effect of it allows you to copy any of your Dinomorphia trap cards in your graveyard and use their effects again. So basically, use this trap card to summon out your boss monster, then your boss monster can use the trap card in the graveyard by banishing it, then fusion summon either another copy of itself, but keep in mind it's got once per turn effects, so you don't really want to do that unless you're trying to go for some big OTK push, or you can summon out your other Dinomorphia fusion monster. This card has 2,500 defense, 0 attack, and this card, while your life points are 2,000 or less, you do not have to pay life points to activate your trap cards, which in a lot of ways can be a bit of a downside for this deck, but does come in handy when you've got things like Solemn Strike in the deck, which have a 1,500 life point requirement, so it does get around that a little bit. It also has a nice little effect of when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can quick effect inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack. As for the rest of the deck list, as per usual, it's much easier for me to go through them as I just play them during the gameplay, so I'll talk more about the rest of the cards during the gameplay portion of the video. But there is two last things I want to quickly mention about this deck list. First of all, every single Dinomorphia card that includes your fusions and your monsters, they have a float effect. When they are destroyed, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard. This becomes very important, as whenever your cards are destroyed, which is destroyed by your opponent's effect, or your own effects of things like Brute, you can then bring back things like Theresia, which then sets a trap card, or bring back things like Diplosis, which then also sends a trap card from deck to the graveyard, as their effects are on special summon. The other thing I want to quickly mention about this deck is, unfortunately, it's very prone to playing cards like Skill Drain, cards like Rivalry of Warlords, all these really annoying trap cards, all these annoying floodgates. You can run them in the deck if you like. I personally am not going to run them as I don't really find that kind of gameplay to be fun. It kind of ruins the whole, like... It's the reason trap decks have such a bad name is because of cards like this that just ruin the game for everyone. This deck is a nice little control deck that can generate value really quickly, and these cards are just kind of like instant win cards versus certain decks, and they're really damn boring, but you are welcome to run them. A lot of people will run them, and it may improve the deck, and may not. It's just, if you want to run them, you can run them, but you're going to be a douchebag if you do. Anyway, that's going to do it for the deck list portion of the video. The rest of the video will be gameplay showcasing the deck list in action, and without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so today I have 2 replays to show you guys, both of which were very long replays, so I'm only going to be showing 2 replays today. Most of the time your replays are going to be fairly long with this deck, as it's a slow deck most of the time. Sometimes you can just beat your opponent down with 4,000 attack monsters and end it quickly, but most of the time it's kind of a slow, grindy kind of a deck. Also, all these jewels were gathered during the new Jewel List Cup event, so what my opponent's ranks were, I think they were diamond-ish, as that's kind of how the rank system works in this format. It goes off your last season rank, so I think they were diamond. They have diamond borders at least, so I think that's what we're dealing with. Alright, so we're going second, which isn't ideal, but luckily we got a hold of our domain. If you have a hand that gets a hold of domain, basically you're set to go. Generally you want to go first though, as, yeah, if I didn't draw this Imperm, I probably just lost the duel right here. Imperm, we're going to be negating his Halby Fibrax, and passing the turn back to me. And I'm just going to set everything in my hand. The majority of this deck's gameplay does happen during your opponent's turn, which is kind of what you expect from a trap-focused deck. Alright, so basically as soon as you get the opportunity, you're going to want to activate your domain. This is really good because you want to get your monsters on board as quickly as possible, so you can activate the effects of things like your brutes, which need a monster on board to be destroyed to destroy your opponent's cards. He activates Ash Blossom, but we're just going to use our Solemn to get rid of that. Sending our 2 Dynamorphia cards to the graveyard to summon out our big boss monster. Now, I basically should have used this effect instantly. I don't know why I waited on it, but either way, we'll use it in a second. This then copies the trap card in the graveyard, the one we just used, which was the fusion spell or fusion trap card. Sending in another 2 Dynamorphia cards to bring out our Stealth Bragia. Now we can activate our Brute. We have a target for the Brute, destroying our card to destroy his card, which pops the effect of Bragia to bring back our Theresa, which then sets a trap card, ready for the following turn. The card we set is Alert. This card allows you to pay half your life points to special summon up to 2 Dynamorphian monsters from your graveyard. Now keep in mind, this is a very powerful card, as you can then copy its effect with Kentragia. So you can end up summoning 4 monsters. They can't attack though. But it's a good way to fill up your back row if you want to. Oh, these cards are once per turn, so you may not want to do that, but it's a good way to get a bunch of monsters on board. Now activate the trap card. Unfortunately, he had a negate for it. Now, I honestly didn't realize this card shuffled into the deck, or I probably wouldn't have done this. But either way, because I wanted this card to go to the graveyard, and I would just copy the effect then anyway. But yeah, because I knew he set this card if we saw him search it. I just thought it's into the graveyard. Either way, activating our Max C to draw a couple of cards. Normally you don't want to activate Max C too often during your own turn, as they only want to summon like 2 monsters here. But drawing 2 cards in a trap-focused deck allows me to get a hold of things like, you know, Solemn Judgments and Ferret Flames, which are both really powerful cards. So, in trap-focused deck, especially when there's low value around, I think it's a good idea. Alright, passing the turn back. So this is basically, as you can see, what most of your gameplays are going to look like. Just a lot of value generating to just overwhelm your opponent. Opponent's going to summon his Monk, can then use his Tenyu. This will bring out his Fishuda, but I don't want the Fishuda in his graveyard at all, as that card is really annoying, so I'm going to activate my Ferret Flames. This card, if the combined attack of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls is higher than your life points, which is, yeah, a little bit low, I can then your opponent then has to shuffle face-up monsters they control into the deck, except monsters with 0 attack, so they can have the combined attack with the combined attack of the remaining monsters they control becomes less than or equal to your life points. So, yeah, bye-bye. He sets 1 back row. We just activate our Kentragina, destroy the use the Brute, destroy our card, pop his back row, get the effect, bring back our monster. Sends another card for the following turn. Sending the Frenzy that we just put in the graveyard, or we just got shuffled back into the deck. Fossil Dig, searching for Theresia. Summoning out a Brute. Exceed summoning into Delcla. Now, I might have had some kind of lethal here or something, but either way, I just kind of messed around anyway. Frenzy, bring the 2 cards back, sending another card to graveyard. Keep in mind these cards can attack when you use them on Frenzy. Very important to note with that, as I think I made that mistake a couple of times in some of the other gameplays. Yeah, this game is very much over. But just for a bit of BM and to show off some of the other cool things this deck can do, we're going to summon out Utopia. Utopia actually has a surprising amount of synergy with this deck, because it can summon into Utopia Prime, which is a card that when your life points are 3,000 less than your opponent's, you can detach 3 materials from this card and pay life points so you only have 10 left. Destroy as many special summon monsters your opponent controls as possible, and if you do, banish them and inflict 300 damage for each card banished. So, pretty good synergy with this deck. It also lets you summon out your Utopia Ray, which is another card where if your life points are lower than 1,000, you can use this effect to basically reduce your opponent's attack and gain a bunch of attack and beat over your opponent a bit. So kind of some strange synergy that it's got, but yeah. Alright, on to replay number 2. Now this replay was a bit longer than the first one, but don't worry, as a lot of the turns were just skip turns, as we were kind of having a top deck war, so... Alright, very good hand, and we got to go first this time. So of course, we're just not going to use this card first, as this is the card we want to have its effect go off, and we want to bait out Ash Blossom, so... As being our pot, yeah, it's bait Ash Blossom. Honestly, it's probably better if I used Fossil Dig here, as we already had a monster that we needed, we didn't really need to use Fossil Dig, and we could have gained a trap card from this, but either way, it's fine. Searching for Diplos, summoning a Theresia, setting our domain, setting our other cards, and passing the turn. He's going to take his spell card. Honestly, I don't want this guy to use Negate off, as if he gets his Negate out, it's kind of hard for me to use my fusion trap card, so I'm going to negate that. I don't know if this is the best negate here if there's another line of play, but either way, it works. You activate Twin Twisters, which is a little scary, but we can activate our domain in response. Unfortunately, we do lose our strike. I'm then going to use the monster I had on board rather than using one in deck, just because my life points are kind of low and I'm a little bit scared he's going to summon something big here and just beat over me and kill me, especially considering I'm going to use this card's effect in a second as well. Summons out a Baron de Fleur. In response, I'm going to then use this card's effect when he tries to destroy it. He doesn't negate this, not really sure why he waits on this one. This then allows me to summon out my other boss monster. This card's effect goes off because it was destroyed, special summoning out my Theresia. He then Baron negates this card so I don't get my trap card, which is a fairly decent negate, I guess. Rather than negating the fusion summon. But because he didn't negate the fusion summon though, he is going to have to then beat over this card. Also, Theresia, because it got negated, it got destroyed, it can then summon to place as well. So a lot of flirt effects going on. Setting a trap card. Unfortunately, the fusion monsters are once per turn, so we couldn't float again, but his board's looking a little bit empty. Summon Diplos. Going to be C-summoning into, I actually missed 1,000 damage here. I could have done 1,000 damage hit this, 1,000 damage hit face. But either way, we summon this card out. And this card's basically just Solemn, except on monster effect. So my opponent tries to activate basically anything, I can negate it. And destroy it. It's actually a very powerful effect, because it negates summons, which is really strong. And this becomes a bit of a top deck war, so not a whole lot goes on here, just a lot of drawing cards. Both players not really drawing that well. The fact that I drew Maxis and Ash Blossoms is okay. I only drew one here, but I was trying to go for lethal. It was kind of a bad Maxi, but I was kind of hoping I'd get some kind of decent trap card or something, like draw into a Solemn or something, not an Ash Blossom. Either way. I kind of want to end this game quickly, as I'm kind of scared that what I have on board isn't going to be that great. I choose not to negate this card's effect, because I know it's a Ash Blossomable effect, so I'm just going to use an Ash instead. Save this for later. This card is very good versus Synchro Summons. If he tries to Synchro Summon, I can negate it. Seeing the Call by the Grave, which is actually pretty decent at this point, as I was pretty sure if he's not playing these cards, they're probably hand traps. Most of the time. Seeing a Solemn, which we can't even use right now. Activates Fatal Adventure. We're going to Ash Blossom that effect. And finally, we drew a Fossil Dig. Fossil Dig, he has Ash Blossom like I thought. Activating Call by the Grave. Gives us our Thresia. Thresia can then set a trap card. He activates this card in response. But we have Brute set, so we can destroy this, destroy the Continuous, basically negating its effect, and getting a float effect off. Thresia setting the alert for later turns. Bringing back. To placeless, sending a card to graveyard, and passing the turn. And now we're in a very good spot. Omega, we're finally going to use our negate on that. He summons a Tenyi. This then allows him to summon another dude from the deck, link off, go into his... I knew what play he was going for here, as this is a very common Sword Soul play. Gonna go into his Shaman. Shaman can then bring back the Normal monster, which can then use to remove a card on the board by battle. But we're gonna activate our alert right here. Alert brings back our boss monster. A boss monster activates the Brute that we used previously. Popping a monster, would have popped his monster, and he would have been able to do basically not much from there. So yeah, that's the deck list, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh.